Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for another edition of Media Madness brought to you by your esteemed host, Ethan Dubofsky. Let's get into it. Well, folks, you heard me right. Another edition of Media Madness following the 2022 television show's Media Madness bracket. I won't spoil who won that one for you, but you can check it out. Find out for yourself who won. And here we have on my screen, which I'm not recording, but I now am in 3, 2, just kidding, it's not. Okay, this is a bit of a problem. You'll have to take this time out with me for technical difficulties. What? Bro. Yeah, what's that? Oh, we are back up, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. As I was saying, this is, of course, the 2022, you can see on my screen, 2022 Media Madness, as I like to call this one, Movie Madness bracket. In it, we will be taking a look at some of the best films that 2022 had to offer and examining which is the best. As per the last Media Madness, I took the Rotten Tomatoes scores of all of these films, and if they didn't have one, I went to Metacritic. If that was still a tiebreaker or didn't have one, I went to IMDb, and this is Rotten Tomatoes ranking, not my own. But the bracket, of course, will be my own ranking. Without further ado, let's get into it. And since I know you're going to ask, why do you have a little mic there, Ethan, as well as this guy? And it's because this is purely for show. I'm doing it for you. Starting out with Violent Night versus The Good House. A lot of people probably don't know either of these films, really. Violent Night is the David Harbour Santa Claus movie, a bit of a John Wick Home Alone mashup, whereas The Good House is a Sigourney Weaver, bit of a smaller film. I am going to take The Good House here. I think it is a... you know what? I didn't start the tournament. And now we should be good to go. Wait, am I recording? I don't think I am. Now I'm recording. Let's get into it. Okay, given all those technical difficulties, Violent Night or The Good House, as I said, I'm going to take The Good House here. I think it is a better movie by and large. I think Violent Night has a lot of missteps, and The Good House is certainly no perfect film. I didn't even particularly enjoy it, but I do think it's a more complete and better movie than Violent Night. Let's move now. My mouse is not working. Guys, what are we doing here? Christ. Okay. Well, I'm using the trackpad. Onward and upward. Look, folks, they want to shut me down. They're not gonna. Okay, I'm finishing this bracket at all costs. They want to turn off my screen recording. They want to make my keyboard not work. They want to shut off my mouse. It's not going to happen. Let's continue. The Black Phone against The Gray Men. Neither of these films were particularly great to me. I thought both were honestly worse examples of other movies in their genre. And wasn't super impressed by either film. If I did have to pick one, I think it would be The Black Phone. I thought The Black Phone was more clever and creative, and again, didn't enjoy either. I don't particularly see either. If Gray Men were to win, I don't see either going far in the bracket, but I am going to take The Black Phone. Let's move now to Nope or Empire of Light, and this is not even really a question for me. Empire of Light I thought was just a bad movie, whereas Nope was a good one. We now have Elvis against Who Killed Santa, a Murderville Mystery. And Elvis, as I think everybody knows now, is a pretty controversial film. It recently got into the Best Picture lineup, so congratulations to it for that. But it was not even close to one of my favorite films of the year. I didn't particularly enjoy it, and then I thought about it some more, and it grew on me a little. But I am, perhaps controversially, going to take the Murderville movie here. It's nothing super special. It doesn't break any boundaries, but it's a lot of fun, and it has far fewer mistakes than Elvis, in my opinion. Let's move now to Avatar: The Way of Water against Thor: Love and Thunder. And if you know me, you know I hate Thor: Love and Thunder. So even if I didn't like Avatar: The Way of Water, which I do, it would still be winning this one because Thor: Love and Thunder is one of the worst films of the year. Next up, we have Cyrano against Jurassic World Dominion. And Cyrano, despite being the 41st seed in this bracket, is actually not a favorite of mine. Both of these are definitely towards the bottom of my year's list. But Jurassic World Dominion, by God, if it isn't the worst film of the year. So literally anything else could be up against it in this bracket, and it still would have lost this matchup because it is just awful in every sense of the word. Jurassic World Dominion is getting shut out in round 1, and Cyrano is moving on. Let's take it now to the 61st versus the 68th seed, both of these vying to get into that round 2 spot. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness against Minions, The Rise of Gru. And I actually, again, this perhaps controversial, preferred, well, that's not controversial, I liked Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I thought it was an actually enjoyable, fun movie with Sam Raimi's special touch attached to it, and Minions, The Rise of Gru. I didn't like it, but even if you did, it's, little more than a fun, silly ride. Nothing very special there. I'm going to take Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Let's move now to Vengeance and Babylon. Vengeance, if you don't know about it, is actually a really fun film. It's directed and stars B.J. Novak. You might remember him as, what's his name? Ryan from The Office, I think is his name. Really funny movie. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, but it got a bad rap here being stuck against Babylon, which is just unfair because Babylon, in my opinion, was one of the best films of the year. Damien Chazelle came out with an absolute banger, and I'm going to give this one to Babylon. Sorry, Vengeance. Let's take it now to Athena against Don't Worry, Darling. Athena was, again, a bit of a quiet release, dropped on Netflix. It's a French film, and I thought it was super creative, clever for a good bit of the runtime, and then it started to lose me as it went on and on. But Don't Worry, Darling was just not a film that I enjoyed really at all. I thought there were a lot of flaws within Don't Worry, Darling, and a very unoriginal film, unfortunately. Which I was saddened by that because I was expecting a better film. Athena is going to take it. Let's take it now to See How They Run against The Most Reluctant Convert. Now, this might be one of the biggest disappointments of the year next to one of the smallest disappointments of the year. And that's not because either film was particularly great or awful. It's because See How They Run I expected a lot from, and it was very mid. And The Most Reluctant Convert I expected almost nothing from, and it was bad. But I am going to have to take See How They Run just because The Most Reluctant Convert, again, I didn't expect much of it. I knew I wasn't probably going to like it going into it, but I was correct. It was very boring, and I can appreciate what they were going for, but I didn't love it. But See How They Run, again, is not a film I see going far in this bracket. It's got a lot of flaws as a film, as a contender here, and in general was a very mediocre mystery, as the title of my review suggests. Let's take it now to Breaking up against Ticket to Paradise, and this, in all honesty, is the first tough choice of the bracket. I think Breaking is, it's not really a tough choice. Breaking is a film with John Boyega. He's a bank robber. He's a former veteran. Well, not former, I guess he is a veteran. And Ticket to Paradise is just a fun George Clooney, Julia Roberts movie, but which meant more to me as a film, which I think was better, which should I enjoy more. I think Breaking has to be the choice here. If it'll load, that is. Let's move now, folks, to The Survivor up against Black Adam. And Black Adam was a good bit of fun. I actually started out by giving it, I think, a negative review, then positive, then negative again. And The Survivor it's one that definitely dipped lower and lower in my year-end rankings the more I thought about it. But again, if we're talking which is the better film here, the more well-rounded contender for this bracket, it's going to be The Survivor. The film I generally appreciated more. The Sound of 007, which is the music documentary behind 007, against Triangle of Sadness. The Sound of 007 was a very mediocre documentary, all things considered, and Triangle of Sadness was actually a pretty good movie. A little shocked to see it as the 66th seed, but it's going to move on. Operation Mincemeat, not a very enjoyable film. Netflix dropped out. It's got some weird love triangle in there that feels very, very forced. And again, not a particularly creative narrative as far as war films go. And The Tender Bar is also a very contrived and before-seen story. Nothing special in either of these films. But if I have to pick one, I am going to go with George Clooney's The Tender Bar. Because it had more moments that I enjoyed, specifically Ben Affleck as a supporting role in this one. Shall we move now to Weird, the Al Yankovic story up against The Greatest Beer Run Ever? And I'm going to go Weird here. I thought it was a very delightful film. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but The Greatest Beer Run Ever was not that impressive to me, and Weird was one that I enjoyed. Let's take it now to The Good Nurse up against the 71st seed, The Whale. And you may have seen the films, you may have made up your own mind regarding them, but I think The Whale gets a pretty bad rap as far as it goes. And I think that's an undeserved rap. I think there's a lot to like here. Obviously, Brendan Fraser's performance is chief among them, and that alone is going to put it above the mediocre The Good Nurse. Here we have Wendell and Wild against the last film that I saw of 2022, which is White Noise. And White Noise, Noah Baumbach, a director I respect and admire. I can see what they were going for here. I didn't like what the film was going for. Wendell and Wild, I thought, definitely had some flaws, but by and large is the much better film, far more creative. Jackass Forever up against Amsterdam. I'm not going to waste your time here. This is Jackass Forever handily, because even though I didn't particularly enjoy either film, Amsterdam was easily one of the worst of last year. Folks, round one is almost over. Let's move now to Lightyear up against Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. And Lightyear was easily the biggest disappointment of last year for me, just because I'm a huge Toy Story fan. I expected a lot more from this one, but it did let me down at the end of the day. And Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul was also one that I just didn't enjoy. So even though Lightyear let me down, I still did appreciate it more than Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. If it's going to load here, then we can move on. There you go. Regina Hall gave a great performance in that one, and Sterling K. Brown actually too. But beyond that, especially when we get The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which is a great film from 2021 in my opinion, it feels a little hollow and repetitive. Bones and All up against Bullet Train. And Bullet Train is one I have a love-hate relationship with. I've gone back and forth on whether I liked it or disliked it, but at the end of the day, it's a very mid film. And while Bones and All was just a little disappointing for me, I still am going to take Bones and All over the disappointing Bullet Train. I know that's a disappointment for a lot of you out there. I know a lot of people are actually big fans of Bullet Train. Not me. Moving now to Black Panther Wakanda Forever versus one of the worst reviewed films of the year, which is Blonde. And again, not going to waste your time here. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is going to easily clear Blonde. Armageddon Time up against The Adam Project. And let's take The Adam Project here. I thought both films were fine. I thought Armageddon Time left a lot more to be desired than the fun Adam Project. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers versus Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths. And this is a pretty funny matchup just because Bardo is, of course, directed by the auteur Alejandro Iñárritu. And Chip and Dale is a Chip and Dale movie. It's a CGI Disney Plus release. And I'm picking Chip and Dale. Bardo, I thought, was way too long and a little pretentious. And as far I will always appreciate Iñárritu than I will the characters of Chip and Dale. I actually am going to take the fun ride that was Chip and Dale over the excessively boring Bardo. Let's move now to the last matchup of round one, The Outfit up against Deep Water. And The Outfit was one of the first films I saw this year, and Deep Water was also one of the first films I saw this year. One of them was good, and one of them was bad. Yes. Let's move now to round two, and here we can really get it started. All of these stragglers have been removed from the race, and now we can finally have a good old-fashioned clean matchup. The first matchup is going to be against the 1 seed, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. You heard that right, the best reviewed film of the year, up against the aggressively middle of the road, The Good House. So its road is going to end here. There will be no Cinderella story for The Good House. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, that little shell that could, is going to move on. Next up, we have Bros versus The Menu. Bros, obviously the Billy Eichner comedy from September. And The Menu is the Ray Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy led, Mark Mylod directed critique on capitalism, as well as just being very funny. I really like The Menu. Bros was not my favorite. I really did not find it to be very funny. I'm not a huge fan of Billy Eichner's comedy in general. The Menu is going to take this one. Let's move now to Decision to Leave up against The Black Phone. And if you'll recall what I said about The Black Phone, I said it wasn't going very far. And boy, was I correct, because Decision to Leave, a hell of a film from last year. And just a very strong contender to really take the title in this one. The Black Phone is going to get shut out in round two. Emily the Criminal, the 17th highest rated of the film, against Nope. And this is a bit of a surprise because I don't know how many people saw or even know about Emily the Criminal. And it is, not a bad film. I definitely had a lot of problems with it. I think I'm a little more critical of it than most that saw it. But Nope is a better film. Moving now to Top Gun Maverick up against the 72nd seed. That might be the lowest in this bracket. I guess we'll see. Up against Top Gun Maverick. Not even a question for me. Again, I'm not going to waste your time. Murderville was a lot of fun. It beat, who did it beat? It beat Elvis, but it is going to get stopped in its track against fellow Best Picture nominee, Top Gun Maverick, which was just one of the best times at the cinema this year. Let's take it now to Barbarian up against The Batman. Barbarian was a lot of fun, a respectable horror thriller, which I had a few problems with as it went on. But The Batman was just one of my favorite films of the year. It was my most hyped film of the year going into it. And by God, if it wasn't one of the best, leaving it. So I'm very, very excited to see how The Batman goes. Look, all of these winners so far are contenders to take the title. You'll have to stick in with me and see which one will eventually prevail. But The Batman certainly stands a good shot, and it is going to beat Barbarian. Next up, we have The Worst Person in the World against Avatar: The Way of Water. And you might think The Worst Person in the World was 2021. That's fine. I just only got the chance to see it in 2022. It only came out anywhere near me in 2022, and I eventually even caught it on Hulu in 2022 in summer. So I'm going to count it as a 2022 release. But Avatar: The Way of Water actually was a big surprise for me. I'm not a huge fan of the original, but this one wowed me. I really enjoyed this one. And it is going to, unfortunately, have to beat out The Worst Person in the World, which was a top 10 seed. That's a big loss there. Next up, we have The Fabelmans versus Cyrano. And I'm not going to keep anything from you guys. I'm a massive Spielberg fan. One of the biggest you'll ever meet, probably. I know we haven't met, but we can meet now. Hi, I'm Ethan Dubofsky. You are? That is just a lovely name. Now we're introduced to each other. So, now you know me. Now you know that Spielberg is one of my favorite directors. I'll tell you another thing about me. I was not a big fan of The Fabelmans. I really think it's a very overrated film. That being said, I already gave my thoughts on Cyrano. Not a film I enjoyed. So I am going to move along Spielberg and The Fabelmans, which was at least more of a competent film than Cyrano. Let's take it on now to The Banshees of Inisherin up against Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And this one is actually a lot closer than you might think. Again, I said Doctor Strange was a really fun ride, one that I enjoyed a lot as a film. It was my favorite MCU film, actually, of this past year. But The Banshees of Inisherin really struck a special nerve. Look at it. It's the 4th highest seed in this bracket. And that's not for no reason. It is a very well done dramedy. A very dark comedy, and only the way that Martin McDonagh can do it, with staggeringly good performances, and a film that really makes you feel a lot of things. You laugh, you cry, it's depressing. It really is very depressing, but by God, if it isn't good. And so while it actually is close, I will have to give some credit there to Doctor Strange. I am going to move along The Banshees of Inisherin. Folks, just doing a bracket like this reminds me how many good movies there were of 2022. Let's move now to All Quiet on the Western Front versus Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And again, All Quiet on the Western Front, one of the best reviewed films of last year, the 29th seed here, which I guess isn't really proving my point. But it was a Best Picture nominee. So, it got like 8 nominations or something. People love this movie. And I was very excited for it. I had seen the original, obviously, way back in 1930. So I was excited to check this one out and, give it its due credit. I was unfortunately very disappointed with All Quiet on the Western Front, and I was very surprised by Bodies, 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 which is a film I did not think I would like and ended up enjoying quite a bit. So I am going to move Bodies, Bodies, Bodies along. Let's move now to Turning Red up against Babylon. Turning Red to me was a fine Pixar film, not much more than that. Didn't do anything particularly wrong to me, but again, Babylon was Babylon. Damien Chazelle took a massive swing, very ambitious film, and most of it paid off for me. So I am going to move along Babylon to round 3. Good Luck to You, Leo Grant up against Athena. And Good Luck to You, Leo Grant is a really special and heartfelt and sensitive film that I did enjoy more than I thought I would. Athena's high concept filmmaking and incredible cinematography. And again, had some problems with the narrative in here and the pacing as it went along, but the film had me with my mouth just wide open most of the time because of how incredible a lot of the cinematography I was witnessing was. Athena's going to move on to round 3. Let's take it now to Pinocchio versus See How They Run. Not going to waste your time. Pinocchio is a spectacular stop motion film from Guillermo del Toro, and See How They Run is a middling mystery. Apollo 10.5 up against Cha-Cha Real Smooth. And this one is also very difficult for me. I think both of these films should definitely, not be out in round 2. I really wouldn't want either of these films to lose this early. But I am going to have to take Cha-Cha Real Smooth. It was a film that meant more to me, that emotionally affected me more. I thought Apollo 10.5 was a really fun ride. It made me nostalgic for a time I was never alive for. And I really appreciated the rotoscoping that Linklater employed here to tell this story. But Cha-Cha Real Smooth was a better all-around film. The highly acclaimed Everything Everywhere All at Once up against the John Boyega Breaking. Everything Everywhere All at Once has to take this one. I mean, as far as inventive, creative films go from last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once is number 1 in that category. So up against Breaking, up against almost anything, it's probably going to win that matchup. Everything Everywhere All at Once, huge contender to go all the way to the finals there. We'll have to see how it plays out. Hustle up against The Survivor. Hustle is the Adam Sandler basketball movie. Again, not a film I expected a ton out of, but I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And The Survivor, obviously a round 1 carryover. Not a film that I loved. I had a lot of problems with it. And Hustle was a huge surprise for me, a real big crowd pleaser that I enjoyed quite a bit. Let's move in now to the 2nd seed, Till, up against the 66th seed, Triangle of Sadness. Needless to say, Till is too high, Triangle of Sadness is too low. And so as these things go, we are unfortunately about to get a massive, easily the biggest upset that this bracket will see. Triangle of Sadness is going to defeat Till. Till is a fine movie. It's a very important story, a very emotionally affecting one. But as per my review, I was not a fan of the way this story was told. And you can find that out. You can agree, you can disagree with my thoughts as you like. But Triangle of Sadness was a film that I felt was done a lot better. Sure, it has its problems. Sure, it's not as important in the grand scheme of things as a film like Till is. But I appreciated Triangle of Sadness more as a film. And it is going to move to round 3 and overtake Till with a massive upset. Let's take it now to The Northman versus The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And I'm not going to lie to you, this film is an absolute fraud. It should not be anywhere as high as it is. This is an easy round 1 exit. I thought it was an incredible disappointment from last year. And The Northman was an incredible surprise for me. Because as much as I was mid to good on Robert Eggers before this movie, this one astounded me. And I very much enjoyed it. So The Northman is easily going to move past The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, that dog shit film, and it's going to move to round 3. Sorry, folks, I don't know what came over me there. Let's take it now to The Woman King up against The Tender Bar, and I've been through it. I said it all. The Tender Bar is mid. The Woman King is a better movie. Let's take it on. If it will load. It won't. I don't have a watch, I'm just looking at my wrist. The Tragedy of Macbeth up against Weird, the Al Yankovic story. And woof, this is a close one. This is probably the closest matchup yet for me. The Tragedy of Macbeth is a very well-made film from one of the Coen brothers. I forget which one. I think that it's Joel, but don't quote me on that. It's a very well-made film and obviously very nice adaptation of a classic story. And Weird, the Al Yankovic is anything but, although obviously it's telling the true story of Al Yankovic and his rise to fame and eventually defeating the drug lord Pablo Escobar. I am going to have to take The Tragedy of Macbeth here. I think it is a film that I liked a lot more than Weird, because even though Weird is weird and delightful, The Tragedy of Macbeth is really spectacular. Let's move now to The Duke up against The Whale. Again, The Duke is a film you might not have heard of, but it is somehow the 7th seed. And it's a fine film, right? It's, fun. It is enjoyable. I think if you were to catch this one on TV or something like that, I would definitely recommend watching it. But is it one of the best films of the year? I'm going to have to easily say no to that. And I am actually going to give this one to the 71st seed, The Whale, which is also just another massive upset there. Because I actually liked The Whale quite a bit, and The Duke should just frankly not be a 7th seed. It's taken out of God's Creatures up against Causeway. Both of these are a bit of under-the-radar films, a lot more subtle filmmaking within here. And in terms of which I liked more, it's going to have to be Causeway, the Jennifer Lawrence led. Actually, Brian Tyree Henry did receive an Oscar nomination for this one, very deservedly in my opinion. I think he gave a spectacular performance. And while God's Creatures also has some great performances in there, Causeway, in my opinion, was the better film. Let's take it now to another Paul Mescal film. Paul Mescal's in God's Creatures. After Sun, up against Wendell and Wild. And Paul Mescal also deserved the Oscar nomination he received for Best Actor from After Sun. Up against Wendell and Wild, again, a nice animated film. After Sun, 10th seed overall, a very liked film. And I think I liked After Sun more. I think After Sun was a better narrative. I thought the filmmaking was really some exceptional stuff there from, what is her name? Charlotte Wells is her name. That's her name. And, film I liked more, not much more to say than that. Taking out a Glass Onion up against Jackass Forever, and I thought Glass Onion was just a spectacular film. I don't want to mince words here. Jackass Forever is completely fine. I'm not a huge fan of the Jackass formula in general, but Glass Onion, I am a fan of that mystery formula and the stories that Rian Johnson likes to tell. Taking out of Argentina 1985 up against Lightyear, and Pixar's run is going to end here because Turning Red was eliminated and now Lightyear is going to be 2. Argentina 1985 is a bit traditional, not the most original inventive film, but it is about a very important piece of Argentinian history, as many commenters have informed me on my review of that film, the video of that. And it's also just a very good movie. 3rd seed right there. So there you go. Werewolf by Night or She Said. And this is, a pretty close choice for me. Werewolf by Night I thought was a very good, albeit very short, film by Michael Giacchino, actually directed this one, the composer. And She Said was a okay film about the Harvey Weinstein scandal, which meant more to me from the last year. It's going to have to be She Said, because I did resonate, emotionally with a lot of the moments that were here. And I thought, of course, a very important film, Contemporary History, was the title of my review for this one, because it is telling a story that, even though it feels like it's in the past, it is today. It is very much a today thing. And conventionally told, sure, but special nevertheless. It's taken out of RRR or Bones and All. And Bones and All, again, unfortunately a disappointing film for me. RRR was really a special one. I think it resonated with a lot of people the last year. Super fun and just a great story all around. Let's go down to Prey up against Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Prey with the 19th seed is a little insane to me. I'm going to take Black Panther Wakanda Forever here. I thought Prey was a fine action film. I do think that it was an interesting place to take the Predator franchise, which is not a franchise I'm super familiar or invested in, but Black Panther Wakanda Forever I thought was a much better film and really a great sequel that continued the legacy of Chadwick Boseman. Drive My Car up against The Adam Project, and again, Drive My Car is just one of those films that carried over from 2021 because I didn't have access to see it in 2021. Drive My Car is a better film than The Adam Project. There will be no huge upset here because Drive My Car is a very profound film about grief and a lot of things. It really is a special film that I think you should watch if you haven't seen it. It's a long one, certainly, but The Adam Project is really just a fun time travel film, not much more than that. Let's move now to Tar or 13 Lives. And I am going to go the Best Picture nominated Tar here, because even though I didn't love this film, I certainly didn't like it as much as most people. I did like it more than Ron Howard's 13 Lives, which was a very unspecial film in my opinion. Let's go down to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish up against Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. And even though Chip 'n Dale was able to dethrone Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, it's not getting past Puss in Boots, which is a spectacular film. You've probably seen it by this point. It's really great. It is a really special animated film, and it is easily going to overtake Chip 'n Dale. And the last matchup of round 2, another Marvel. Good luck. God, Marvel has sunk their teeth into this bracket. Even though most of them have fallen by this point, I think it's just Black Panther that remains. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special up against The Outfit. Marvel will fall again. This was a really off year for them, in my opinion. And the outfit is going to move on past the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which was fine. Not much more than that. Let's take it now to round 3. We are really heating up here, folks. Starting with the first seed, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, up against the 33rd seed, The Menu. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is a really, really sweet film, and one that I did most certainly appreciate. The Menu. The Menu is better. I enjoyed The Menu more. So unfortunately, the first overall seed is going to fall in round 3. Sorry, guys. Sorry, folks. The Menu was a film I liked a lot more. It's a whole lot more fun, and I appreciated the message more than Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. So even though obviously it's the first seed, it appealed to a lot of people overall. The Menu was a film I liked more. Let's take it now to Decision to Leave up against Nope. And the more I think about Nope, the more I like it. But Decision to Leave was just such a special film for me this past year, and one that I thought was almost perfect. It was a really exceptional piece of filmmaking from Park Chan-wook, a fantastic romance, as well as an incredible noir. It's just you don't really see a film like this being made anymore, and for him to nail it so perfectly was astounding. So Decision to Leave was one of the biggest surprises of this past year to me. I loved it a lot. Moving on now to Top Gun Maverick up against The Batman, two of the biggest crowd pleasers of the past year, two of the biggest blockbusters, really. I don't know if that's true in terms of money-wise, but word of mouth in my circles, certainly. And as fun as Top Gun Maverick was, The Batman meant a whole lot more to me. If you want to talk about noir stories, you want to talk about mysteries, because really that's what 2022 is. It was the year of the mysteries, in my opinion. A lot of the best films of the year were mysteries, and The Batman did that exceptionally. It took a character in a franchise that I hold so dear, and it revolutionized it, changed the game, made an entirely fresh and different story, one that I ate up and will continue to eat up as more films in this franchise are being made. It's one of the best films of the year, as this bracket will prove. And it's moving on past Top Gun Maverick. Sorry to see it fall so early again. That's one that really should be making it super far. But The Batman will prevail. Let's move in now to Avatar: The Way of Water up against The Fabelmans. And Spielberg, as much as I love you, your road ends here. Because James Cameron's Avatar: The Way of Water did the impossible. The man has now made how many $billion? Like $6 billion off of his last 3 films alone. But even more impossible, he got me to like an Avatar film. Something I never thought would happen, frankly, but he did. It did happen with only the second, and now I'm even excited for the third. Would you believe it? Because Avatar: The Way of Water was just that good. Moving on now to The Banshees of Inisherin up against Bodies, 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 and would you believe it? No, I can't do it. Man. All right, this is actually a really tough one. Christ, I really don't know what to pick. So I actually have ranked all the films from 2022. But I don't have that up in front of me. I don't remember really. So even though I could go off of that, I am trying to keep this as authentic as possible and really pick from the heart. And I think I know what I'm going to go with here. Again, I think most people, I don't know if you've seen either of these films watching this video. Both of these movies are really good. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was absolutely hilarious. A spectacular film. Again, a bit of a mystery that I think ends perfectly. And it's a funny movie and a very fun ride. And The Banshees of Inisherin, that kind of killed the climax of that a little bit, that little mouse click. But it's just a better movie. I think The Banshees of Inisherin is a better movie, and as the 4th seed, it's going to move on. I think nobody's surprised by this. And even though Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is very good, one of the biggest surprises of last year for me, Banshees of Inisherin is better. Let's move along now to Babylon up against Athena. And even though Athena's strengths have gotten it this far to round 3, its weaknesses are going to come into play here. And Babylon is by no means a perfect film, but it's going to pretty easily actually move past Athena, which was, again, a very flawed film. It had all the pieces there to be something spectacular, and it really fumbled it, in my opinion. So Babylon is going to take this one to round 4. Let's move now to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio up against Cha-Cha Real Smooth. And both of these movies are really very good. Again, this actually is a close matchup for me. But I think Pinocchio was just a little more special. I thought Cooper Raiff touched something very deep and important with Cha-Cha Real Smooth, but I thought Pinocchio was just a spectacular retelling of this classic story in a way that only Guillermo del Toro could do. He got a ton of really spectacular actors here to give their voices for this special film and really make it one worth remembering. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once up against Hustle, Adam Sandler's Hustle. And even though Hustle is very good, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is better, a far more profound, important, deep, impactful film than Hustle, which is really just fun. Not much more beyond that. So Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to move on. Triangle of Sadness up against The Northman. Triangle of Sadness, of course, had the biggest upset so far in the bracket, dethroning Till. And actually, this is a round one holdover. It's been here all the while. So this is a true Cinderella story. But unfortunately, it is going to get shut down by Robert Eggers' The Northman, which was just a spectacular story. And again, Eggers is just really, really good at finding certain time periods, certain people from certain time periods, and telling these great stories. And he does that again in The Northman to excellent degrees, in my opinion. We are now at The Woman King up against The Tragedy of Macbeth. And Woman King is more fun. I like The Woman King a lot more. Again, it can be a bit conventional. The action in Woman King is really great. And Triangle of Sadness, at the end of the day, is very good. I liked a lot about it, especially the craft elements. We're talking production design, cinematography, and even the acting is great. But it is Shakespeare. And I'm not the biggest Shakespeare fan. I think he'd be offended if he was alive, but he's not. So, goodbye, Tragedy of Macbeth. Hello, The Woman King. It's taken out to The Whale up against Causeway. And you want to talk Cinderella stories? Let's talk The Whale. The 71st seed, again, a round one holdover, is coming all the way to round three, and it is going to do what Triangle of Sadness could not. It is going to go to round four, surpassing Causeway, which is a good movie, not a great one, and neither is The Whale, to be fair, but The Whale was a film that I liked a lot more and had a lot more redeeming qualities to it. Let's take it out of Aftersun, the 10th seed, or Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. And, sorry, Aftersun, good movie, Glass Onion's better. Whole lot of fun, a spectacular mystery here, some brilliant, brilliant writing. Creates one of the best times had at the movies last year. Glass Onion is going to move on to round four. We are now at Argentina 1985 up against She Said. And both of these films are about true stories. Both of these are pretty sensationalized retellings of true stories. Actually, that's not true. She Said is not all that sensationalized. That's something I did appreciate about it. Argentina in 1985 was one I had a lot more fun with. This is a bit of bias here. I love courtroom dramas. But I also just thought Argentina in 1985 both told very impactful stories. Let's not kid ourselves here. But as I said, She Said can be very conventional, and I did have quite a few problems with it. I have a review of that one if you're interested. I have a review of both, actually. Argentina in 1985 I liked more. It's taken now to RRR, or Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I like both of these movies. I like Black Panther Wakanda Forever just a little bit more, because RRR is, at the end of the day, 3 hours. There's a lot here that I find, I get that it's supposed to be over the top. I really do. And I think that makes it a very, very special film, one that you're not really exposed to a lot in our sort of American Hollywood culture. And so it was very refreshing to get a film like that. But at the end of the day, Black Panther Wakanda Forever had a lot more to offer me personally, and it's a film I liked a lot more. So even though most of the MCU is dead and left in a ditch somewhere, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is continuing on the legacy here. Let's take it now to Drive My Car and Tar. They rhyme. And both of these are long films. Both of these are Best Picture nominated films, albeit in different years. And Drive My Car meant more to me personally. I think Tar is a little long. It's just a little bit pretentious. And let's not talk about long, because Drive My Car certainly has it beat in that category. But Drive My Car was a far more emotionally affecting film than Tar, in my opinion. Let's take it out of Puss in Boots: The Last Witch up against The Outfit. And as fun as The Outfit is, again, we're talking mysteries. The theme of the year is mysteries. And The Outfit falls just a little bit below all the other ones that came out last year. And Puss in Boots: The Last Witch, such a fun goddamn ride. Again, I probably don't need to tell you. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, please go watch it, and then you can finish this video, because it really is that good. Puss in Boots: The Last Witch is going to move on to round four. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the Sweet 16. How far have we come here? And we have a lot of incredible competitors here, some remaining, and a few frauds, if you ask me. A few that probably should not have made it this far, but they will be exposed sooner rather than later. Let's take it first to The Menu versus Decision to Leave, and this one hurts because I like both of these films a lot. Both of these are two of the best films of last year, in my opinion, but I'm not going to kid you here. Decision to Leave is a better movie in every way. You can hear me talk about both, and I think you can tell which I preferred. And Decision to Leave, as fun as The Menu is, as sharp as it is as a movie, Decision to Leave just is again, almost perfect film. It's going to move on to round 5. And let's take it now to the Batman up against Avatar: The Way of Water. Again, we talked Batman, Top Gun earlier, two of the biggest blockbusters this year. Here you go with another two. Imagine Top Gun against Avatar. Now, that would have been a matchup. But, again, look, I'm not just doing this because they're mysteries. I really think it's special. The last year just had a ton of really great mysteries. Avatar: The Way of Water is a lot of fun. It impressed me. I think its biggest accomplishment, again, by far, I was never a huge fan of the Avatar universe, and it actually made it something special to me and told a story that actually really touched me and I was affected by. But The Batman was just such a special film for a universe that I already adore so much and a character that I love, and really gave such a fascinating, gripping story that I will never get over how good it was. I don't know that I'm scared they won't be able to top it, I have to be honest with you. But I'm going to cherish it while we have it. The Batman is going to move on, and already I'm scared to decide this matchup. Let's move now to the Banshees of Inisherin up against Babylon. And we were talking upsets earlier. We were talking the biggest upsets. The 77th seed Babylon. What a story here. What a fantastic story here. Because it's a very, very good movie. And the Banshees of Inisherin is very good too. But if you're asking me, look, I'll be 100% honest with you. I've only seen both films once. Babylon has quite a few flaws. I understand that. Having watched it again, I could see it going down. I can't really see it going up as a film, in my opinion. But it's a film that I appreciate so much about, and I think it is really exceptionally told in a way that only Damien Chazelle can do. I'm not just saying that because he's Damien Chazelle. You look at so many of the things here, so many of the craft elements, as well as just the acting and the brilliant story that he's going for. There was a lot I didn't like about this film, to be sure. But I liked it more than the Banshees of Inisherin overall. It is going to upset the Banshees of Inisherin and move on to the Elite Eight. Let's take it now to Pinocchio up against Everything Everywhere All at Once. And both very good films, to be sure. But again, you just have to go with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Even if you can't get behind the story of the film in general, it's just such an underdog, and you gotta love that. It was a really special film. Not all of it was perfect to me. It didn't resonate with me. I think it goes on for just really too long there at the end. It keeps going with all these endings, and I really just wish it would finish and close out. And then a lot of the comedy didn't do it for me. I really was not a big fan of the humor in this one, but it is still going to have to overtake Pinocchio, which is a really great stop-motion animated film, but it's a story we've seen before, although they alter it. And it is a good movie. Let's not kid ourselves. It made it to round 4, and it's the 5th overall on the year. It ends here. Let's go now to The Northman up against The Woman King. These are two action period piece epics from societies in the past. And I just love The Northman. The Woman King is a very good movie. The Northman is on another level. I was really stunned by how good The Northman is. Specifically, the action here really impressed me. But it's just such a good story here. Nothing super new, but for it to be just said, like, you can tell Eggers' fascination and respect for the history that he explores here. Let's continue on now. Next up, we have The Whale up against Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. And even though The Whale has made it this far as the 71st seed, let's be honest with ourselves, Glass Onion was just a spectacular film. I've already talked about how fun it is, but by God, if it isn't. Excellent. Argentina 1985 up against Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I'll be honest with you, I like both of these films. Neither of them should be in round 4. But that's just the way brackets work. And so if I have to pick one of them, I'm going to go with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the Marvel film. The Marvel film that could do it. All the other ones are left way back in round 2 or 1. But this one is triumphing. It's going to continue on to the final or not. We'll see. And Argentina 1985, very enjoyable film. But again, I had a lot of problems with this one. Not really a lot. But I had problems with this. Specifically, as you go into the third act, it gets very conventional and becomes a very conventional courtroom drama. And I don't want to spoil it a bit more beyond that. Again, you can check out my review. You can check out the film for yourself because it is a good one. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, just a smidge better. Let's move now to Drive My Car versus Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Drive My Car, very good movie. Again, very emotionally affecting movie. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is just that goddamn good. We're talking about the animation. It's spectacular. We're talking about the themes. By God, are they good. We're talking about the action. We're talking about the character of Death, who was the single best antagonist of last year. It's got all the pieces you could want. It's crazy how good Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is. It's moving on. Decision to Leave up against the Batman. And this one hurts. This could easily be a final. It really could. I've already talked at length about how almost perfect Decision to Leave is. The Batman certainly had its flaws. Again, it's just a very long film. But it's spectacular. It's a spectacular film. The Gotham that it creates with Greg Fraser's brilliant cinematography. We're talking about the sound. We're talking about the costumes. We're talking about the editing. We're talking about everything about the Batman. We're talking about the acting. We're talking about Matt Reeves' brilliant vision that he's able to bring to life. It's crazy. It's crazy how good this movie is. And if you're not a Batman fan, I can respect you not liking it as much as I do. I can respect you taking Decision to Leave over it. Most certainly, Decision to Leave. I just realized I haven't been recording. Fuck. Okay, we're back. Sorry. Okay, where was I? I can respect you taking Decision to Leave. I really can. I'll show you this bottom part because, you earned it. I'm sorry. I think I stopped recording around here, so I'm sorry about that. But had a bit of some more technical difficulties. I already told you at the beginning. They're trying to shut me down. It's not going to work. Specifically, my phone storage ran out, so that's what they're doing now. They're really stooping low. The big media heads. I really don't know who's doing this, but we can start some conspiracy, I'm sure. Look, I can respect you taking Decision to Leave. It's a fantastic film. But the Batman meant more to me personally and was very good. Not much more to say beyond that. Let's take it out of Babylon up against Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this one hurts. This one hurts. Because I am aware that Babylon is a flawed film. Right? I understand that. I get a lot of the criticism around it. I definitely don't think it should be anywhere near this low. And I really, really like the underdog narrative Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I think at its peak, it's a wonderful film. A wonderful film that displays the magic of cinema perfectly. But at the end of the day, which did I like more? Which vision did I appreciate more? It's got to be Babylon. It's got to be Damien Chazelle's Babylon, which really struck a special nerve with me. And if we're talking about mysteries being the theme of 2022, the real theme is probably the magic of cinema as a storytelling device. You've got it in Babylon, you've got it in The Fabelmans, wherever that is, and you've certainly got it in Empire of Light. You've got it in a whole number of films. But Babylon did it the best, in my opinion, and it's got to move on to the final four. Down here. Woof. Again, two of the best films of the year, if you ask me. Two of the best films of the year. Northman was more of a surprise for me. One that I did not expect it being this good. Glass Onion I certainly knew would be good. I just didn't expect it to be this good. Even better than Knives Out, in my opinion. I have to go Glass Onion, which was just it's really just fantastic writing. And again, we want to talk other crafts. You've got the editing here, you've got production and costume design. And Rian Johnson as a director, man, this guy is good. Staggeringly good. Like, I am a huge Rian Johnson fan, and I think he outdid himself yet again with Glass Onion. Nobody is doing it like him. And I think it's, again, we're talking mysteries, one of the best of the year. Black Panther Wakanda Forever up against Puss in Boots The Last Wish. And I have to be honest, I don't feel good saying this. I feel like an asshole, but it does bring me some pleasure to finally end the run of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, because it's a good movie. It's not round 5 caliber. It's not round 4 caliber. It's probably, arguably, I'll say it's round 3 caliber. But again, that's how brackets work. It's certainly a good movie. It's certainly one I appreciate. And again, I love it more for honoring Chadwick Boseman's legacy than really anything else. But Puss in Boots The Last Wish is just such a spectacular film. And Black Panther has a lot of problems. Let's take it up here to The Batman up against Babylon. 2 of the best films of the year. Which meant more to me? You already know. You already know. This is the year of the mysteries, ladies and gentlemen. The Batman is moving on to the final. I wouldn't have it any other way. Again, I'm telling you, I have never been more hyped for a film in my life than I was for The Batman at the beginning of this year. And I cannot tell you how overjoyed I was that it was this good when I saw it. I immediately gave it a 10 out of 10. I have obviously softened on it since then. I've considered it more. I've tried to be more impartial and objective, and I think I've succeeded in that front. But it is still such an incredibly important film for me. And down here, I have to say, I'm really glad Puss in Boots The Last Wish made it this far. It's definitely not one of my top 4 films of the year, but it's up there. It's probably top 10. And it is it's an incredible film. It is super, super enjoyable. The 23rd seed up against the 11th seed. It's gotta be Glass Onion. It just has to be. And I'm not gonna say much more than that because I want to save all the tension for the final here. The Batman. A film about the classic caped crusader, the Dark Knight, the Batman. And it is really very faithful to the character. It's a spectacular mystery that is not only fun, is not only funny, but is very well made. If you want to ask me what the better made film of these two is, it's the Batman. But there's not a single film that I had a better time at the movies with than last year than Rian Johnson's Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. I've spoken at length about Glass Onion. I actually don't feel like I'm doing a very good job representing how good this film is. And at the end of the day, what do I love in a movie? The story. I love a lot of things. I love all the craft elements, but at the end of the day, the thing I love most is the story. And Rian Johnson appeals directly to my tastes time and time again. The man just knows how to tell a good story. And in doing so, I believe he crafted the single best film of 2022. Glass Onion and Knives Out. Media Madness Film Champion! Congratulations to Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. Such a spectacular film. Wouldn't have it any other way, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what happened here. I think my screen recording shut off, but it's okay because the tournament is over. Glass Onion, an incredible film. If you haven't seen it, you probably have by this point. Go ahead and check it out, but really check out a lot of films on this list because 2022 was a spectacular year for films. I'm really glad I got to do this bracket, another Media Madness in the books, and I'm hoping to do more in the future. Hopefully 2023 brings us some even stronger competitors, some even stronger narratives, and we can really get a good bracket going on our hands. Folks, if you like the Media Madness premise, please let me know. Or if you don't, just don't watch the video because that's what most of you did with the TV one anyway. And I'll stop doing them if you don't like them. But I don't know. I think people like the longer format. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Or maybe they just don't like my takes. Either way, they don't like it. But that's enough, folks, because I enjoy doing this bracket. A little long, albeit. Maybe I ought to split it up into chunks next time. Or I was thinking about doing it with a live. Maybe bring back some cinema conversations with my brother. And we can solve the bracket together with, obviously, the input of the audience. But, folks, that'll do it for the 2022 film bracket. I hope you enjoyed. I have been EDPC Reviews. You have just been the absolute best. And I will see you at the next Media Madness tournament. Bye.